The Silent Guardian. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of Lunar Base Alpha, her dark eyes fixed on the gleaming blue marble of Earth below. After 20 years of service in the United Earth Defense Force, she had learned to trust her instincts. Right now, those instincts were screaming that something was wrong. "Admiral," her eye assistant's voice chimed softly in her neural implant. "The Arxer delegation has arrived for the annual inspection." Chen's jaw tightened. The Arxer had arrived on Earth 50 years ago, offering humanity protection and technological advancement in exchange for joining their galactic concordat. They appeared as towering crystalline beings of pure light, beautiful, advanced, and seemingly benevolent. Their only requirement had been the complete dismantling of Earth's military forces, claiming that violence had no place in their enlightened society. Most of humanity had embraced the deal. Who wouldn't want peace and prosperity? But Chen's grandfather, former Admiral James Chen, had seen something else in those crystalline eyes, something that prompted him to launch Project Shadowkeeper before he disappeared. "Send them to Conference Room 3, Chen responded. "I'll be there shortly." As she walked through the pristine white corridors of the base, Chen activated her neural link to Project Shadowkeeper, deep beneath the dark side of the moon, in caverns unknown to their alien protectors, lay humanity's insurance policy. A fleet of next-generation warships, built in secret over 5 decades, using a combination of reverse-engineered Arxer tech and human innovation. The conference room doors slid open with a soft hiss. 3 Arxer representatives stood waiting, their crystalline forms casting rainbow refractions across the walls. Leading them was High Observer Ixel, their chief representative to Earth. "Admiral Chen," Ixel's melodious voice filled the room. "Another year of perfect peace and prosperity. Your species continues to flourish under our guidance." Chen bowed respectfully, even as her implant registered an unusual energy signature emanating from the Arxer. "We are grateful for your protection, High Observer. We've come to perform our annual inspection of lunar operations," Ixel continued. "Though I must admit, we're particularly interested in some unusual energy readings we've detected recently." Chen's pulse quickened, but her face remained impassive. "Probably interference from our new fusion reactor installation. We're still calibrating the containment fields." "Perhaps." Ixel's crystalline form shifted colors slightly, though they bear a striking resemblance to military-grade stealth systems. Before Chen could respond, her neural implant flashed an urgent alert. Deep space sensors had detected something massive entering the solar system, something that wasn't supposed to exist. "High Observer," Chen's voice remained steady. "I'm afraid we'll have to postpone the inspection. We're detecting a system malfunction in the reactor that requires immediate attention." Ixel's form darkened. "Admiral, you should know that deception is futile. We've always been able to read human vital signs. Your increased heart rate betrays you." The conference room's lights suddenly flickered. Chen's implant reported that unknown energy fields were attempting to penetrate the base's defenses. "You're right, Ixel." Chen's hand moved to the neural interface at the base of her skull. "Deception is futile. That's why I'm done pretending." She activated Project Shadowkeeper's primary protocols. Throughout the solar system, hidden bases and dormant systems sprang to life. Beneath the lunar surface, a fleet of ships powered up their engines. "What have you done?" Ixel's melodious voice had turned harsh, their crystalline form pulsing with angry red light. "Exactly what my grandfather suspected might be necessary," Chen replied. "We've spent 50 years letting you think you had us completely under control, but humanity has never been good at giving up its freedom. Not really." The base's warning sirens began to wail. Chen's implant showed her what the deep space sensors had detected: a massive Arxer warfleet dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. "Your inspection wasn't about checking our compliance," Chen said, backing toward the door. "You were coming to complete your conquest, just like you did with the 12 other species we've detected in your protection program." Ixel's form expanded, growing more threatening. You cannot hope to resist. Your primitive species. That's your first mistake. Chen cut them off. You thought we were primitive because we let you think that. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our paranoia. She activated her neural command codes. Throughout the base, hidden defense systems engage. Energy fields sprang up, containing the Arxer representatives. What you're seeing at the edge of the solar system isn't your invasion fleet arriving right on schedule. Chen smiled grimly. It's the 6th Fleet of the United Earth Defense Force, returning from deep space trials. We knew you were coming. We've always known. Ixel's crystalline form fractured slightly, showing the first signs of genuine concern. You cannot win. The Concordat will learn that humanity doesn't break that easily, Chen finished. And more importantly, they'll learn that we don't abandon other species to slavery. She opened a channel to all Earth Defense Forces. This is Admiral Chen. Operation Lightbreaker is now in effect. All ships execute primary mission protocols. And may God have mercy on their souls, because we won't. The lights of Lunar Base Alpha dimmed as it transferred power to the awakening fleet. Humanity's long game was finally reaching its end move. The real war for freedom was about to begin. And Sarah Chen, standing before her would-be conquerors, felt a fierce pride. Her grandfather had been right. The best defense wasn't just preparing for war, but making your enemies believe peace was their idea. The game of deception was over. Now it was time for humanity to show the galaxy what they could really do. Breaking the chains. The bridge of the UES Prometheus hummed with controlled tension as Captain Marcus Rivera watched Earth's moon shrink in the main viewport. His ship, along with 30 others of the 6th Fleet, had emerged from their hidden lunar docks minutes ago. Each vessel represented the pinnacle of hidden human engineering, a perfect fusion of stolen Arxer technology and humanity's ruthless innovation. Multiple Arxer vessels on approach vector, Lieutenant Emma Santos reported from Tactical. Their energy signatures match known warship configurations. They're charging weapons. Rivera's dark eyes narrowed as he studied the tactical display. The Arxer ships were beautiful things, crystalline structures that seemed to flow through space like liquid light. But he knew the truth behind that beauty now. Each vessel carried thousands of neural inhibitors, ready to turn entire populations into docile slaves. Status of the Liberation Protocol, he asked. His science officer, Dr. Yuki Tanaka, looked up from her station. Her hands moved gracefully over holographic controls as she spoke. The counterfrequency is broadcasting at full power. Any human colonies in range should be waking up from Arxer control within minutes. That had been humanity's true victory, not the hidden fleet, but the discovery of how to break the Arxer's mental control. The neural inhibitors worked by broadcasting specific frequencies that suppressed independent thought. Once they understood that, developing a countersignal had been inevitable. "Sir," Santos called out, "we're receiving transmissions from New Mars Colony. They're asking what's happening. Many colonists report headaches and confusion." Rivera allowed himself a small smile. "Send them the prepared message. Let them know they're free." The tactical display suddenly lit up with new contacts. The Arxer fleet had arrived in force, over 50 ships, their crystalline forms arranging themselves into attack formation. "All hands to battle stations," Rivera ordered. "Execute Operation Lightbreaker, Phase 2. Throughout the ship, crews rushed to their posts. The Prometheus's engines pulsed as it moved into position alongside its sister ships. They had trained for this moment for years, running endless simulations in the secret facilities beneath the lunar surface. "Sir, incoming transmission from the Arxer flagship," Santos reported. On screen, High Commander Zixtal appeared, a being of pure light and crystal, its form rippling with barely contained rage. "This rebellion is futile, humans. Your species will be properly contained, just as all others have been." Rivera stood, facing the alien commander. "You made a mistake, Zixtal. You thought humanity would be content with comfortable slavery, but we're not built that way. You are primitive beings who require guidance. Zixtol's form flared brightly. Look at your history. Endless war, destruction, death. We brought you peace. No, Rivera's voice was firm. You brought us chains disguised as peace. But those chains gave us time to study you, to understand your weaknesses. And now we're going to use that knowledge to free every species you've enslaved. The Arxer commander's form pulsed with dangerous colors. You cannot hope to. Rivera cut the transmission with a gesture. All ships, execute attack pattern Delta. Deploy Liberation Boys. The human fleet moved as one, their formation splitting into predetermined attack groups. From their launch bays, hundreds of small devices shot forth, each one broadcasting the counter-frequency it would wake enslaved minds across the sector. Arxer ships are firing, Santos reported calmly. Activate quantum shields, Rivera ordered. Another human innovation. Defense fields that existed partially out of normal spacetime, making them nearly impossible to penetrate with conventional weapons. The first Arxer energy beams struck the human fleet, their crystalline ships glowing like small suns. But the quantum shields held, refracting the deadly light harmlessly into subspace. Return fire, Rivera commanded. Target their neural broadcast arrays. Let's give the galaxy a wake-up call. The Prometheus shuddered as its main guns opened up. Beams of focused gravitonic energy, weapons that could disrupt the very atomic structure of the Arxer's crystalline ships, lanced out across space. Sir, Dr. Tanaka called out excitedly. We're receiving transmissions from multiple systems. The counter-frequency is working. Colonies are waking up everywhere. Rivera watched as the battle unfolded before him. The Arxer fleet's perfect formation began to break as reports of uprising reached them from their controlled worlds. Their shots became less coordinated, their tactics less precise. They never understood us, Rivera said quietly. They saw our capacity for violence as a weakness to be controlled. They never realized it was just one part of what makes us human. And they certainly never guessed that our greatest weapon would be hope. The battle for humanity's freedom, and the freedom of countless other species, had begun. And Captain Marcus Rivera intended to show the Arxer exactly why you should never underestimate humanity's dedication to breaking chains, even if those chains were made of light and crystal. The price of freedom. Deep within the Arcturus system, the UES Prometheus drifted silently among the debris of what had once been an Arxer control station. Captain Rivera stood before a holographic display showing the status of the liberation campaign across known space. Red dots indicated systems still under Arxer control, while green marked those freed. Yellow highlighted ongoing battles. There were far too many red dots remaining. Casualty reports from the Proxima Centauri engagement, sir, Lieutenant Santos said quietly, passing him a data tablet. The numbers made Rivera's jaw clench. Freedom, as always, demanded its price in blood. The Vrel are requesting immediate assistance, Dr. Tanaka reported from her station. Their resistance forces have seized control of 3 major cities, but the Arxer are responding with overwhelming force. The Vrel, one of the first species they'd freed, were insectoid beings with a natural resistance to Arxer control. Their underground networks had proven invaluable in spreading the liberation movement. Now they were paying for that courage. Plot a course to the Vrel homeworld, Rivera ordered. Maximum speed. Sir, Santos interjected, that will take us straight through the Arxer defensive line in Sector 7. Rivera nodded grimly. I know. Send word to Admiral Chen. Request any available support, but we're going either way. The Vrel stood with us. We won't abandon them now. As the Prometheus and its escort ships prepared for jump, Rivera's mind wandered to the developments of the past weeks. The liberation campaign had revealed horrifying truths about the extent of Arxer control. Entire civilizations had been enslaved for centuries, their histories rewritten, their very nature suppressed. Jump in 5. The helm announced. 4, 3. A priority alert flashed across the main display. Dr. Tanaka's eyes widened. Sir, we're detecting a massive energy surge from the Arxer command nexus in Sector 9. The signature matches. Oh God. The display showed it clearly. The Arxer were activating something massive. Something that made every sensor reading spike into red zones. They're calling it the Harmony Wave, Tanaka continued, her voice shaking. It's an amplified version of their control signal. If they succeed in broadcasting it, every mind in the sector will be enslaved, Rivera finished, including those we've already freed. The bridge fell silent. They all knew what this meant. The Arxer had decided that if they couldn't maintain control through their existing methods, they would simply increase the power until resistance became impossible. Sir, Santos spoke up, the Vrel are still waiting for our help. Rivera stared at the tactical display, watching the countdown to the Harmony Wave's activation. They had perhaps hours before it became operational. The Vrel homeworld was in the opposite direction. Send a message to all ships, he said finally. The Arxer have forced our hand. We can no longer fight this war system by system. He turned to face his crew. They want to enslave every free mind in the sector. Then we'll show them why humans are so damn good at breaking things. He brought up the plans they'd developed but hoped never to use. Operation Thunderbreak is now in effect. All ships prepare for concentrated assault on the Arxer command nexus. Sir, Santos said quietly, those plans were theoretical. A direct assault on their headquarters. The casualties would be catastrophic, Rivera nodded. I know, but if that Harmony Wave activates, we lose everything. Every mind we freed, every species fighting for their independence, all of it gone in an instant. He opened a channel to the Vrel resistance. This is Captain Rivera. I'm sorry, but we cannot come to your aid. Instead, I'm sending you the specifications for our quantum shield technology and gravitic weapons. Use them well. We're going to end this war today, one way or another. The Prometheus's engines flared to life as it changed course. Behind it, 30 ships fell into formation, humanity's best and brightest, preparing to strike at the heart of an empire that had enslaved billions. The Arxer thought they could control humanity's violent nature, Rivera said to his crew. They never understood that violence isn't our nature. It's just one tool we use to protect what matters. And right now, what matters is freedom. Not just for us, but for every species they've enslaved. He watched as the fleet aligned for its jump to Sector 9. Today, we're going to remind them why humanity's most dangerous weapon isn't our technology, or our weapons, or even our determination. It's our willingness to sacrifice everything for what we believe in. The stars stretched into lines as the fleet jumped toward its destiny, toward either the end of Arxer dominance or the last stand of human freedom. Either way, the galaxy would never be the same. Warriors of truth. The Arxer command nexus loomed before them, a massive crystalline structure that pulsed with sinister light. Captain Rivera had seen many wonders in his years of service, but this was different. The station was the size of a small moon, its surface fractal patterns creating an ever-shifting maze of light and shadow. Multiple defender squadrons detected, Santos reported, her voice steady despite the tension. They're moving to surround us. The tactical display showed over 200 Arxer warships forming a defensive sphere around their headquarters. The human fleet, now joined by Admiral Chen's task force, numbered barely 50 vessels. Status of the Harmony Wave device, Rivera asked. Dr. Tanaka consulted her readings. Power buildup at 70% and climbing. We have less than 30 minutes before it reaches full capacity. Admiral Chen's face appeared on the command screen. All ships, execute Formation Omega. Deploy ECM packages and prepare for close-quarter engagement. Remember your training. They may have numbers, but we have something better. What's that, Admiral? A young officer asked. Nothing left to lose, Chen replied grimly. All ships, attack pattern Sierra. Show them what humanity does when backed into a corner. The human fleet split into predetermined strike groups, each targeting specific weak points in the Arxer defense grid. The Prometheus led the central thrust, its quantum shields glowing as enemy fire began to saturate space. "Sir," Dr. Tanaka called out suddenly, "I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from several Arxer ships. They're changing." The crystalline vessels began to transform, their beautiful structures becoming twisted and jagged. The beings inside were revealing their true forms, not creatures of light and beauty, but something ancient and terrible. "So that's what they really look like," Rivera murmured. "Broadcast this to all allied systems. Everyone needs to see the truth." The battle erupted in earnest. Human ships dove between Arxer formations, their gravitic weapons tearing crystalline hulls apart. But the enemy's numbers were telling. One by one, human vessels winked out of existence in balls of fire. Harmony wave at 85%. Tanaka reported, "We're running out of time." Rivera watched as another human ship sacrificed itself to take out 3 Arxer vessels. They were inflicting heavy losses, but not enough. Not fast enough. "Sir," Santos said quietly, "I have an idea. But you're not going to like it." She explained quickly. Rivera's face hardened as he listened. It was insane, desperate, and probably suicidal. It was also their only chance. "Admiral Chen," he called over the command channel, "request permission for a core breach maneuver." Chen's face showed understanding and grief. "Permission granted, Captain. Give them hell." Rivera turned to his crew. This ship was named Prometheus for a reason. In ancient myth, he stole fire from the gods to give to humanity. Today, we're going to give the galaxy something just as precious. Their minds back. He opened the ship-wide comm. "All hands, this is the captain. Emergency protocols are now in effect. Begin evacuation to secondary craft. Engineering, prepare for controlled core breach." The plan was audacious. The Prometheus's quantum core, when detonated, would create a temporary rupture in spacetime. Combined with their counter-frequency broadcasters, it would generate a wave of their own, one that would not only block the harmony wave, but permanently disrupt the Arxer's ability to generate their control signals. "Core breach in 5 minutes, engineering reported. All non-essential personnel have evacuated." Rivera looked at his bridge crew. "Anyone who wants to leave, now's the time." No one moved. The Prometheus drove deeper into the Arxer formation, taking hit after hit. Its quantum shields flickered and failed. Hull breaches appeared on multiple decks. "Core breach in 1 minute," engineering announced. "Point of no return approaching." Rivera watched as the massive form of the Arxer Nexus filled their viewport. "Lieutenant Santos, plot us a collision course with their main power core." "Dr. Tanaka, divert all power to the counter-frequency broadcasters." The ship shuddered as another hit struck home. Warning klaxons blared throughout the vessel. "It's been an honor," Rivera said to his crew. Then he opened a final channel to the Arxer command. "You wanted to control humanity's violent nature. Here's a lesson in human nature. We'd rather die free than live as slaves. Core breach in 10 seconds. The Prometheus, burning and broken, drove straight into the heart of the Arxer Nexus. In its wake, it left a legacy that would reshape the galaxy forever. Because sometimes the price of freedom isn't just blood and sacrifice. Sometimes it's showing the universe that there are things worth dying for, and humanity had just proven that freedom was one of them. Dawn of independence. The light from the quantum core breach faded slowly, like a newborn star dying in reverse. From her flagship's command deck, Admiral Sarah Chen watched the debris field where the Arxer command nexus had once stood. The Prometheus's sacrifice had done more than just destroy the harmony wave. It had shattered the very foundation of Arxer power. "Status report," she commanded, her voice rough from hours of battle coordination. "The quantum breach is stabilizing." Her science officer reported. "The counter-frequency wave has propagated throughout the sector. We're receiving reports from Everywhere. The Arxer control signals are gone. Completely gone. Chen closed her eyes briefly, thinking of Rivera and his crew. Their deaths had purchased freedom for trillions. Admiral, communications called out urgently. We're receiving transmissions from all over the galaxy. The surviving Arxer ships, they're surrendering. And there's something else. The main screen filled with images from 100 worlds. Species that had been enslaved for centuries were waking up, their true natures reasserting themselves. But they weren't responding with the violence the Arxer had always claimed made control necessary. Instead, they were helping each other. Former enemies were offering aid and support. Civilizations that had been forced to forget their own histories were already beginning to remember. They were wrong, Chen said softly, about all of us. They claimed control was necessary to prevent violence. But look, when given true freedom, most beings choose cooperation. Her tactical officer interrupted. Admiral, we're detecting multiple ships emerging from FTL. Recognition codes identify them as the Vrel Defense Fleet. More ships appeared, vessels from every species that had been freed during the Liberation Campaign. They had come not to fight, but to help rebuild. Open a channel to all ships, Chen ordered. Standing straight, she addressed the assembled fleet. This is Admiral Chen of Earth. The Arxer control network has been destroyed, thanks to the sacrifice of brave beings from many species. But our work isn't done. She paused, looking at the faces of her crew, humans who had risked everything to free not just their own kind, but all thinking beings. The Arxer claimed that control was necessary for peace. They were wrong. True peace doesn't come from suppressing what we are. It comes from accepting our differences and choosing to work together despite them. Reports continued to flood in. Throughout the galaxy, freed species were already forming new alliances, not based on control or dominance, but on mutual respect and cooperation. We have an opportunity now, Chen continued, not to build another empire, but to create something new, a federation of free worlds, where every species can develop according to their own nature, where diversity is celebrated rather than suppressed. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Ships from dozens of species formed up around her fleet, their crews broadcasting messages of support. The Arxer thought that freedom would lead to chaos, she said. Instead, it's leading to the greatest cooperation the galaxy has ever seen. Because that's the truth they never understood. Real peace isn't the absence of conflict, it's the presence of justice. Real harmony isn't enforced from above, it grows from below. She turned to her crew. Send word to Earth. Operation Lightbreaker is complete, but we're not going home yet. There's too much work to be done. In the days that followed, a new galactic order began to emerge. The Arxer survivors, stripped of their ability to control others, were confined to their home systems under the watch of a multi-species peacekeeping force. Their technology was studied and repurposed to heal the damage they had done. The freed species, including humanity, began the long process of rebuilding. But this time, they did it together. Research was shared, resources were pooled, and ancient rivalries were set aside in favor of mutual progress. A memorial was established in the Arcturus system, at the site of the first liberation battle. At its center stood a hologram of the UES Prometheus, forever frozen in the moment before its final sacrifice. The inscription below it read simply, "Freedom is never free, but always worth the price." Admiral Chen stood before that memorial a year later, watching ships from 100 worlds pass by. Each crew paid their respects in their own way, some with solemn silence, others with songs of remembrance. They still don't fully understand us, her aide commented. Many species find humanity's willingness to sacrifice for others puzzling. Chen smiled. They don't need to understand us. They just need to know that we'll be here, standing guard over freedom, for as long as it takes. Because that's what humans do. We break chains, wherever we find them. She touched the memorial's base, where Captain Rivera's last words were inscribed. Some fires are worth stealing from the gods. The galaxy was free, and humanity had helped make it so, not through control or dominance, but through sacrifice and determination. It wasn't a perfect peace, but it was real, and that made all the difference.